And of course, I'm expecting your comments. 0244340437. Well, health officials in the Ashanti region have uncovered a plot by COVID-19 patients to break out from isolation centers in the region. And they say it is becoming their biggest challenge in the fight against the pandemic. Kumasi South Hospital, which is Ashanti region's holding center, has witnessed 2 attempts as pressure mounts on authorities to let them out. Nana Yaljima has more in the following report.
Kumasi Infectious Disease Treatment Center and the hospital's maternity ward are dedicated for care for COVID-19 patients. Out of about 30 patients admitted here since the outbreak, 18 have been discharged. Authorities are suddenly confronted with some of them secretly planning to leave the center on their blind side. 2 male patients who attempted to escape gave no reasons for their action. Dr. Angela Drowa Frimpong is COVID-19 case management coordinator at the center.
They tried to use a bear trolley to break the door, but they couldn't come out. Even though the door was broken in sections, they couldn't come out. Sometimes you can understand where their psyche is because you are being kept in a place for a week, 2 weeks, not your usual environment. You don't have the freedom to go out, so it can become a bit stifling.
Any unfortunate incident of a breakout here puts hundreds of people outside at risk as admissions soar in the wake of increasing case counts. It comes with pressure on personal protective equipment here at the facility. Dr. Drowa Frimpong again.
Well, as usual, yes, we don't have enough space, so that's why we are appealing to everybody to do the best they can to not get COVID so that we don't have to admit more patients. So we don't have enough space.
Meanwhile, Rotary Club Kumasi East has donated some PPEs and sanitation items worth 10,000 cedis to the facility. It brings Rotary Club Ghana's support value since the outbreak of COVID-19 to over 1 million cedis. Francis Titi Awa is president.
We will continue by creating the awareness. As we all know, the president has announced, and now it has become part of us, and it has been enforced, backed by law, that we should always put on our masks. And so we'll make sure these forces are being implemented. So Rotary will start, the Rotary Club of Kumasi specifically, will start by creating awareness on radio.
From Kumasi for Joy News, Nana Yaljima reporting.
Well, this is happening at a time when we are getting a warning now from the leader of Ghana's COVID-19 test team, Dr. Samuel Kaba Akorie. He's cautioning that the cured COVID-19 patients not to be complacent because the virus could return. Listen.
Let's say if we have 50 cases today, positive, our figure will jump by 50. But our recoveries will still be down because until the 18 days time I just spoken of, you will not get any recovery.
We can have cases recorded every single day,
by
50-50 without recovery until day 18, then we get recovery from
exactly.
So it's good we are having a lot more recoveries, but we've seen cases in South Korea. You mentioned South Korea, and I'm going there to use it as an example. They also recorded huge recoveries, then days after there was the issue of reinfection. Do we have a strategy in place in Ghana to ensure that if, and that's not something we are hoping for, if these recoveries few days later go back to get reinfected, is there a strategy in place to quickly move in, get them, and treat them again?
Okay, so absolutely yes. It wasn't only South Korea. There were other countries who also brought out papers about people who have been reinfected, but they weren't certain whether it was actually reinfection or reactivation of the virus, or they were never actually cured. Those things keep remaining. But one day, they came out to say that it was not reinfection. However, with COVID, anything can happen. You can have people who can be reinfected. There are still people talking about it. The good news is the following, that in Ghana, when you are diagnosed, you're just like any other patient. We have all the data about you. You know, when you get to the hospital, you put your number, where you stay, your next of kin. We have all that. 2, when we say you have recovered, that is not the end of the story between you and us. There is a long relationship. And that relationship is that first week, you come for review. Second week, you come for review. And in 1 month time, you come for review. The next good news is that most of our cases, sometimes we look at them, if we are not too satisfied with your recovery status, not with the test, but maybe you've recovered, you have 2 negatives, but physically you are not that strong. We do x-rays, chest x-rays, and in some we even do CT scan.
Have we had any reinfection in Ghana as we speak?
You know, so far, till date, we've not had a case come back. You see, the protocol is so strict that we are using in Ghana, that you do the first test, do the second test, and then say goodbye. But there is one thing we should understand. We've had cases whereby after the 14 days, you do the first test, it comes negative. You do the second one, it comes positive. We'll keep you until we get the 2. So that has dragged us to sometimes even 1 month. But now what is happening here is this. It is too early to be talking of reinfection because we got hit on the 12th of March, right? And today is May 15 or 16. So what is happening is that we are just 2 months, right? And those that we've had who have recovered, which means they are less than 2 months recovered. And those who have given us such issue because of the double testing for the 2 negatives, we've been able to avoid that. But it is possible that such a thing can happen. It's possible. With COVID, as I say, it's a learning process, and we cannot say that it might not happen.
Well, the latest numbers when it comes to Ghana's infections stands now at 6,269 confirmed cases. 6,269 confirmed cases. There are 31 deaths and 1,898 recoveries in all. Let's stay with this issue of the COVID-19 as the figures continue to rise. One phrase you have to get used to is living with the virus. That's the phrase that government is beginning to introduce, and they're encouraging us to begin to have discussions around it. Government says it expects organized groups who have concerns regarding easing of restrictions to channel their worries towards finding effective ways of living with the virus while deploying appropriate safety protocols. Listen to Kojo Opon Nkrumah, the Information Minister, who spoke at the COVID-19 update briefing today at the Information Ministry.
Apprehensive. Indeed, if we were not apprehensive, then we will not be sensitive to the challenges of the time. It is okay to be apprehensive. It is okay to have worries. It is okay to wonder how this will be done. But we must channel those apprehensions and those worries towards answering the question, what does it take? What should be the indication of a good time? What will be the best way to protect teachers, non-teachers, students, if we are to open up at some point? Government believes that we as a nation can do many things that we put our minds to. And yes, this is a complex global problem, but if we put our shoulders to the wheel, the best of our creative juices and the positive spirits that we have can help us come to the line of best fit on what to do if we decide to ease some of these restrictions. So it's a good time to start having this conversation. What does it take if and when we get to that point that we want to ease the restrictions? While the virus is still in the global ecosystem, while they haven't found an antivirus yet, and while no society can be in lockdown or restrictions in perpetuity, that line of best fit of what does it take to ease as much as we can and still protect as much as we can. And that's a conversation that we're inviting the nation to.
So let's have that conversation. Let's bring in American-based Ghanaian specialist in infectious diseases, Dr. Bertha Sewa Ayi. Dr. Ayi, thank you for your time here on News 9.
You're welcome, and thank you to your audience for tuning in.
We chose to speak to you because the U.S. has taken the lead in reopening. In fact, I'm just reading on the BBC that all 50 U.S. states have partially now reopened after a 2-month shutdown, and this is in spite of the fact that you have one of the highest death rates, the death toll surpassing 92,000. What lessons is the U.S. learning in the wake of the reopenings that we've seen in the States?
Well, I think the first thing I'd have to say is that not everybody is on the same consensus about reopening schools. As a matter of fact, I think 2 days ago, the head of the central bank was saying one thing, and the Treasury Department was also saying, look, don't risk your lives for money. And so I would say that it's not been a consensus in terms of reopening the states, given that on the 19th, which was 2 days ago, the world reported the highest daily recorded number around the world with over 121,637 cases, highest since the outbreak. And most of it was from Russia, U.S. first, Russia, and 2 other countries. The bottom line is, I think we're not learning from history. People just want to open because they're tired. And so I think the lesson is that we're willing to take a risk, period. That's the biggest lesson I'll learn from it. And on the other hand, I can see the sense of why some people want to go back. In Chi, we will say, secondly, if there was a lot of money to give to people, then you could say, look, I'm giving you $500 a month, stay home. So you have that balance of, look, I'm hungry, I'm a carpenter, I'm a taxi driver, I need to earn a living. If you ask me to stay home, where am I going to find money versus, you know what, scientifically we know the right thing for you is to stay at home. So I'm going to stay a scientist and say that the right thing is really not to reopen at this time, but it looks like the pragmatic thing is let's reopen, but let's be extremely careful. Like the restaurants that have opened in the U.S., they're asking them to clean. Everybody's supposed to come in with a mask. There's 6 feet of distances between every restaurant table. But then on the other hand, just this week, the restaurant owners had a meeting with President Trump because they're saying, on the one hand, just give us money because it's not even worth, we're not making any profit with the number of people who are coming in, and we're keeping a 6 feet distance. So it's going to be tough financially for the next few months, but I think the good news is we're going to get over this because I always say this, the closest we have to mirror of anything that happened was the 1918 influenza pandemic. It was just like this. It went around the world just like this. People wore face masks, homemade face masks just like this. There were people who refused to wear face masks, but you know what? It died down after a year and a half, and life went on as usual. So I think we're going to have to, there's a price to be paid. Those who can stay at home should still stay at home because it's the smartest thing to do. Those who cannot should proceed cautiously.
Okay, so for Ghana, I think today the information minister sort of said, let's begin to have the conversation and just tapping into your expertise here, knowing what you see in the U.S. The president has told us that he will speak again to us 31st May, and from what we're hearing, it's what we're seeing across the world. Countries, states are beginning to reopen and lift the restrictions. If we are to go that way, you say if you can, don't do it, but it's almost inevitable. For Ghana specific, what will be your recommendation in terms of, okay, reopen, but what must we do medically that while we lift the restrictions, we do not, I guess, create a situation where there's a resurgence in the infections and deaths?
Okay, were you specifically about schools or just in general?
Broadly, I mean, because this really goes beyond schools. Everybody, because right now there are restrictions on restaurants, there are restrictions on nightclubs, etc. I mean, churches, funerals, all across the board.
Well, for one thing, there should not be any mass gatherings. Yesterday, I was just reading, I don't know who wrote the paper, but one of the things the paper was postulating was that all over the world, we should just accept that we cannot have like a big concert, we cannot have like a big football match. Anything that will bring a large crowd is asking for trouble. We should not do that. So any activity, you know, I know we love each other so much as Ghanaians. We always want to hang out and have one funeral or the other. I think restrictions would still need to be placed on the number of people who can gather for funerals, and then we need to continue to engage the community so that people are, we should never be hearing things like media virus, like we need to get to a point where everybody is so well educated and understand the implications that people are willing to do the hand washing, the sanitizers, and the putting on of masks. And I think the mask has gone a long way because I see almost everybody has a mask on, at least a little I can see from remotely in the U.S. So we're doing well. And I think we should still practice extreme social distancing, which means organizing your activities together with your family, organizing your activities so that the less interaction, you won't have somebody coming to visit you for hours, or you limit where you go with everything that you do. So those are, I think, some of the baseline things that we would have to do because, you know, a case in point, you know, China did the highest tech lockdown that there's ever been. The WHO was amazed. It said no country can do what China has done. Everything was being done online. There was nobody on the streets. They did that for 9 weeks. Then they reopened. And today they're having to test the 11 million people in Wuhan city. Why? They're having resurgence. They're having outbreaks. So they've quarantined another 8,000 people again. And so you can see that, look, don't mess, to put it in layman's terms, don't mess with this virus. The whole world will have to be on the alert until we can declare that this pandemic is over. Yeah. And I also think that if we have a global perspective, instead of just thinking Ghana, we should be asking what's going on in Togo, what's going on in Ivory Coast, what's going on in Burkina Faso. Because if you remember, we had those 10 Burkinabés who came to Tamale. We weren't expecting to see disease in Tamale. They just crossed the border over there, and they were kept at the Tamale hospital. At that time, our numbers were just like 100, and immediately they made up 10% of cases. So we have to start thinking about environment.
And you make an important point. Even as the restrictions are lifted, should we include reopening of our borders to land and sea, and what will that mean for us? I'm grateful that you could join us, Dr. Bertha Aida. She is an American-based Ghanaian specialist in infectious diseases. So listening to News 90 on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, the NDC General Secretary, Johnson Asiodun Ketia, says his children are being victimized because of his political leaning. In an interview with Mama Usu Abuaje on the Joy News channel on Multi TV's AM show, Mr. Ketia speaks of his son and daughter, both of whom lost their jobs because, he says, pressure from some elements in the current administration. Mr. Nketia, who described the experience as unfortunate, said his son has been jobless for over 3 years.
My son is out of work. He happens to be working with a private company at the harbor. Now that private company operates with a government license. And then you have the management of GPHA squeezing that private company that unless and until my son is sacked, the license will be withdrawn. So my son has to be sacked. So he's in the house as I speak to you.
Really?
Yes.
But they're doing that to you simply because you're General Mosquito, you're the General Secretary of the NDC. They're doing that to your son, for instance, because you're General Mosquito?
Yes, because the Gapoha instruction they gave to that businessman. When he said, why? I'm doing my private business, blah, blah, blah. Then they said, look, Asiodun Ketia's son is too politically exposed. When he's here, engaged in clearing of goods and so on, he can import weapons to come and overthrow government, so he must be kicked out.
So how long has your son been home for now?
More than 3 years.
Not working?
Not working. So my daughter was also working with another government institution involved in auditing Because see, the way I organize my life and I brought up my children, they are very, very strict when it comes to speaking the truth and remaining with the facts. So she happened to be working with a government institution that in the internal audit department of a government institution. She was sent on assignment and given instruction to find something to implicate an innocent person for political reasons. And she said she cannot do that. She will work, these are her findings. She will let somebody else go and redo the work. But she will not sign anything, but she will make her findings because he cannot go and implicate an innocent person. So she came back, and then they had to remove him from head office auditing to some district branch in Greater Accra. When he went there, the manager there says, there is no desk for you.
And that is Johnson Asedu in Ketia. He is the General Secretary of the NDC. Some of your messages now on the stories you've heard from Top Story all the way on to Newsnight. This one from Roxing in Winchi. NDC is hypocritical as they manage to shift the media's attention from COVID-19 to their politics. Emmanuel says, my question goes to the EC and the President. They're asking good citizens of Ghana to go out to risk their lives for so-called new voters register. Kwesi says this press conference by the NDC can best be described as emotional tantrum without verifiable facts, and that's in reference to the NDC press conference earlier today that was on Top Story. What at all does the NDC fear with the change in this current register, where the EC has maintained consistently that it is fraught with errors? Now, this one from Kingsford, he wants to talk about the patients, the COVID-19 patients who have been attempting to break out from the isolation centers. He says this action by the patients needed to be investigated because I think they may be hungry or they may be facing some stigmatization from their friends who may be calling them on the phone. A few of your messages there. I'll share more with you. Keep them coming in. Now, tonight there is growing opposition to the Public University Bill as almost 40 bodies kick against it in separate petitions to the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education. The bill, which seeks to harmonize administration procedures for public universities, was laid yesterday and referred to the Education Committee. While the University Teachers Association of Ghana is questioning its relevance, CDD in a memo says government's position could compromise academic freedom and independence if the document is allowed to pass in its present form. We'll soon be joined by parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo on the contents of this bill. But President of UTAD, Professor Charles Marfo, said the university community will resist any attempts to change the current structure.
We would have wished there is no such a bill at all. That is basically it, because we don't really see the significance of it. You just said what they intend to do with public administration and whatever, but we believe the acts of the individual universities as they are now are doing those jobs, and if anything at all, and they want to make it better, we could fine-tune it. And so we are just saying, and just the fact that we have so much concern on most of the clauses tacitly suggests that we would have wished that this bill does not proceed into Parliament and for that matter to get passed. But we are just saying that if it has to be, if it is the policy of government and they insist on doing it, there's a better way of doing it. And that is why we have to sit down and do such an exhaustive job and give it to them.
Well, the deputy ranking member on the Education Committee, Dr. Clement Park, is unimpressed with government decision to regulate public universities.
And indeed, all the issues that have been raised are some of the reasons why I feel personally, and in this case the minority, we believe that this bill doesn't have what it takes to resolve the challenges that we all know we face in the area of, public education at the higher level with regards to our universities. Because, all the issues that the memorandum accompanying the bill has stated that it seeks to fix, these are not issues that are beyond the ability and capacity of the current management system the separate and individual, unique and historical university statutes to deal with. So our argument has always been that the challenges that government claims it seeks to fix by introducing this bill can be solved without the introduction of the bill. But if you take a critical look at the bill, clearly, if this bill, the way it has been presented, is passed into law, then what we value most as academics, as academic freedom, is lost forever. Well,
and we are now learning that as many as 40 petitions are currently before the Education Committee, waiting to be examined. The chairman of the committee, William Kwetu, is hoping there will be some form of a compromise.
If a bill is referred to any committee, before the committee sets to consider the bill and to initiate any amendment, the committee will, of course, invite all those interest groups who have written petitions to listen to them. And in fact, we do this in collaboration with the ministry. With that of UTAC, I heard you just mention about UTAC. UTAC's own is being still tackled at the ministry with the Minister of Education. In fact, he told me that about 3 days ago, that he has also received personal petition from UTAC and is going to sit with them before we even agree to meet them as a committee. So I would say that I know a certain number of petitioners, including with individuals, all numbering 38. I haven't studied all the petitions yet. I know CDD has written to us. I don't know the details. We'll look at that tomorrow.
I don't know if you're able to share with me your thoughts on the bill as chairman, but also as someone who represents a constituency. What do you make of the bill as it stands now?
The only thing that I can share with you on the bill is that the bill seeks to synchronize all the various laws and rules governing public universities. We want to have a uniform administrative procedures or processes for all the various public universities. That's what the bill seeks to do. Other than that, for now, you see that we have a University of Ghana bill which slightly changes with Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology law. I mean, it will also have some variations with UDS or with WHO or whatever. So we want to synchronize all so that when it comes to the main administrative processes or procedures, they are the same.
Let's speak to parliamentary correspondent Joseph is on the line. Joseph, you've seen a copy of the bill. Can you sum up for us what are the key points in there that seem to be causing all this controversy?
And so, as you indicated, when this bill gets passed, it will seek to harmonize the administration of all public universities in the country. There are about 25 of them, including the technical universities, listed in this particular bill. And what that means is, before the establishment of a university, an act is passed separately by Parliament to govern its administration. But when this bill comes into force, all the other universities with their acts will be repealed in order for this to come into force. Now, a few of the controversial points that are coming up, there would be the Governing Council, and we know they oversee the administration of the various universities. Under this act, the President will appoint 5 people to the Governing Council, additionally appoint a chairperson. Before then, there will be representatives of various institutions like the student bodies, UTAG, and all to the council. So the concern being that the President would have a lot of power in terms of appointing those who serve on the council, who manage the administration of the university. Again, under this particular bill, a public university is expected to prepare and submit its annual estimates when it comes to revenue and expenditure to the minister responsible for finance through the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission for the necessary approval. Before then, they can go ahead and do their expenditures. And if they want to spend beyond whatever has been approved, it has to go back to the minister for approval. So then the finance minister would have a lot of control over the resources and how the monies of the universities are spent and all. And in pursuance of that, the internal auditor at the university, in preparing his final report at the end of the year, is also supposed to submit a copy of that report again to the minister, which is again the concern about government control over the universities. Additionally, there will be the establishment of a centralized application processing services for the processing of applications for admissions of all public universities. That's again one thing that would be done. And the final sticky point, which some of the petitions are raising concerns over, is that per this act, the minister may give directives on matters of policy through the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission to a public university, and the public university shall comply. Shall comply, meaning that when the minister gives any such directive on how the university should be managed, they wouldn't have any option than to comply with it. Those are some of the provisions that this bill, when it becomes law, would actually help in
the consultations are happening. We know about the 40 petitions before it. Any idea yet what timelines the committee is working with before this comes to the House for some debate?
And so we gather that tomorrow the leadership of the committee would actually be meeting to draw up a timetable on when they will be meeting each of those institutions that have submitted petitions against this particular bill. And it's after that that the committee will then put together its report and prepare what specific recommendations they would want to see when this eventually comes to the floor of Parliament. But the indication is that it may take a few more months before the plenary begins looking at the document.
Joseph, thank you very much. Still ahead here on Newsnight. I am not against the church. We'll hear from St. Central MP Kennedy Ejipon, who says he got founder of the International God's Way Church, Bishop Obinim, arrested for forgery.
And I've gotten involved because in the course of my investigation, I've seen that he has done harm to a lot of innocent people in this country. And I have to let Ghanaians know.
Plus, founder of Capital Bank, William Ato Asian, begins negotiations with the Attorney General to have some of the charges brought against him dropped, as he expresses willingness to refund 27 million cedis to the state. Stay with us for details of that. It's now time for business, and Charles is here with the latest. Hello, Charles.
Hi, Evan. So coming up in business, government describes as unfortunate Ghana's addition to list by European Union of money laundering and terrorist financing countries. And Ghana Statistical Service cautions public against job recruitment scams on social media. We'll hear from the government statistician. Business on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN. Welcome to a new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, and a one-stop shop for all office essential. And First National Bank. We are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you?
When you want it, just Momo it. When you tire for the long queue in the supermarket, just Momo it. And when you really want that beautiful new blouse too, just Momo it. And when you won't get that thing, when you will get fresh to impress, you know who, just Momo it. And when you need to pay that your utility bill and domestic staff set, just Momo it. And when you want send love to the family for back home, just Momo it. So many ways there. When you go use your MTN Momo wallet or make payments with scan to pay. When you go use the QR code, or you go use the merchant ID, or on bank POS terminal. You go also transfer money between mobile money wallet and bank account, all on MTN Momo. Enjoy real convenience in all your financial transactions and live life the brighter way with MTN Momo. We are good together. Just Momo it. We're there for you everywhere you go.
Mr. Barr has big dreams for his business, Barr & Co. Limited, and his family, making them a reality man to long drives and queues. He's lost precious time struggling to pay his suppliers in China, Turkey, India, and other parts of the world. With the First National Bank global payment via our online banking enterprise, he now pays for all that in the convenience of his home or office, giving him time to focus on family and growing his business. Use our online banking enterprise to access Forex when you need it. It takes a bank that does more to help your family. So who's helping yours? First National Bank. How can we help you?
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop. Where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience
with world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM, radio for the discerning listener.
And you're welcome to Business on Newsnight. Now, government has described as unfortunate Ghana's addition to a list of money laundering and terrorist financing countries, saying it has already started partnership with several international bodies taking steps to improve the environment against money laundering activities. George Riafi has more.
The European Union earlier this month put Ghana on the list of countries with deficiencies in anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing framework. This is due to claims by the European Union that the country has strategic deficiencies in anti-money laundering and financing of terrorism. But the Ministry of Finance in a statement noted that it is surprised at the European Union because Ghana over the years had demonstrated strong commitment to strengthen its anti-money laundering and counter-financing terrorism. It argues that this move is coming at a time that the Financial Action Task Force and other relevant international agencies have always acknowledged Ghana's efforts in enhancing its anti-money laundering regime in various platforms that the European Union itself was represented. The Finance Ministry had argued that it is unfortunate that the European Union took this action without any proper engagement with government concerning any shortcomings that needed to be addressed. On the contrary, when Ghana's progress report was being discussed at a recent international meeting in Paris, no adverse comment came from the European Commission. The Ministry of Finance is therefore surprised at the European Commission to mention Ghana as one of the countries that have failed to put in place structures to protect itself from anti-money laundering and terrorism financing.
And that's George Riafi's report. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, says it has taken measures to ensure that mobilization of revenue is not affected during this COVID-19 era. There are concerns that revenue could plunge and worsen, especially as officers slow down on collection because of the pandemic. But Acting Commissioner Reverend Amishadai also Amwa says the GRA has got all the required equipment to protect officers in these times.
Again, we also have to look at these the companies that we have to go, and then we do the negotiations with them, and we make sure that when we go, we keep the social distance. If you go to the ports, it's the same thing. We have officers at the various areas, and they also have to make sure that they also keep the social distance and also use their protective equipment, because at the end of the day, we've got to create a balance. You will not say that because of the COVID-19, every factory should close. You understand? But the fact you have to make sure that you observe the protocols, and the same thing that the Revenue Authority is doing. In addition, we've also allowed for some of the staff to also work from home, and so we have provided them. In fact, we are even ordering more laptops so that more people, and we expect that we've ordered about 3,000 more laptops, that we'll be able to give these laptops to the staff, that they can be able to operate from their home and do the assessment from home.
And that's Acting Commissioner of the GRA, Reverend Amishadai also Amoa there. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobina Anem has advised potential job seekers to disregard ongoing reports of job offerings at the service on social media. According to him, some unscrupulous persons are using the name of the statistical service to extort monies from job seekers under the pretext of job placement for the incoming national census.
Information is on the social media that we have engaged some individuals using mobile money accounts to collect money from prospective, unsuspecting applicants, indicating that they can offer them a job on the census or give them a place of their choice. We want to put on record that Ghana Statistical Service, first of all, has not engaged any individual or agency to collect money from any person in the hope that that person would get a job or that person would place in a district of his or her choice.
Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobina Anen. That's for Business on Newsnight.
Thank you very much, Charles. So, listening to Newsnight is on Joy 99.7 FM.
Hey, I say, mix the cement in the correct proportional.
Hey, contractor.
Hey, Bagani, what's your soul?
Yeah, Malande. Sorry, I say. When you attend the year of return and casa. Hey, contractor. A giant wasting year. Hey, what was wrong with me feeling too much?
Who project here? Me friend a gas them from top to down. If you are a gas them.
Hey, yes, solid pa.
Hey, you see gas them, man. If for soup in our do. On your quality no question. Extra gas them cement biara. I will cook a crab bee. Over 5,000 plus communities. And a gas them. I donations. SCC schools, I built the clinic. Now, when a packaging now, what's Sadara and environmentally friendly?
Never compromise on quality. Choose the value Gassem offers you always. Gassem, the nation builder.
Now, the founder of defunct Capital Bank, William Atuesian, has begun negotiations with the Attorney General to have some of the charges brought against him dropped. Now, lawyers of Mensah Atuesian say their client is willing to return some 27 million cedis to the state. They told the Accra High Court today they've already begun discussions with the Attorney General to resolve the matter. My colleague Joseph Akable has been following this story and joins us on the telephone line. Joseph, Atuesian is facing some pretty serious charges relating to the Capital Bank collapse. Give us a sense of the background leading to this latest development.
And so the information is that, this was one of the banks that government and the BOG, to be specific, said that they had breached various aspects of the banking regulations, for which reason they closed them down, and also made a point that they were being run in ways that were not in the best interest of persons who were saving with a bank or were investing in those financial institutions. And so there were calls that the matter be taken to court, and this was one of the very first cases that were filed in the court. And if you recall, prior to this case being filed, Mr. Atuesian had made a point that he had made an allegation that some individuals connected to the finance minister and the finance minister himself had made efforts to purchase the bank prior to the MPP coming into government, and he had expressed surprise that indeed shortly after coming to power, they would supervise institutions that will come after them and collapse the banks, saying that the banks are non-performing. And so this matter has been in court for some time. We went to court today, and the lawyers are indicating that Section 35 of the Court Act, and if I want to read that particular part of the law, it says that where a person is charged with an offense before the High Court or a regional tribunal, the commission of which has caused economic loss, harm or damage to the state or any state agency, the accused may inform the prosecutor whether he admits the offense and is willing to offer compensation or make restitution and reparation for the loss, harm, or damage caused. The plea relates to an amount of 27.5 million cedis, which, if you recall, that Borders report had said that this was money that they are seeking to use as business promotion.
The controversial business promotion money.
Yes, which the Borders report had said that had been carried in a jute bag and was distributed to some people. Now, his lawyers indicate that this is money that they are willing to refund to the state, and they have already paid an amount of 1.4 million cedis.
They paid 1.4 million cedis out of that amount already to the state. So this appears to be a conversation that has gone beyond just negotiations as to there's already an agreement from the AG side that you can pay.
That is so. They indicate that that amount of money has been given to the state so far, and they make the point that, beyond that, there are some cars that belong to him that came into the country that have also been impounded and in the custody of Yoko. We understand about 19 cars, and so that also says is something that they could also use to offset this amount of money. But he makes the point that, so this is the proposal that they are making to the AG, and they are engaged in discussions, and so they ask that instead of the trial proceeding, the court should give them some time to conclude those discussions with the Attorney General's department.
And do we know when this came up in court whether the AG stated their position on this? Seeing now that we now know that already they've made more than 1 million cedis payments already.
And so the Chief State Attorney, Mariana Apiopong, who represented the Attorney General's department in court today, make the point that, they have been engaging in the talks with them. She's aware of this particular request, but they want a comprehensive plan as is required by law to be put forward by the lawyers of Mr. Atuesian and submitted to the Director of Public Prosecution for a decision to be taken. And so until that document is submitted to them, they cannot take a decision as to whether to go ahead with the proposal that is being made or not. And so Justice Eric Cheba, who is a Court of Appeal judge with additional responsibility at the High Court, says that he has given them up until June 18, where he expects both parties to report to him as to whether they are agreeing that they should go with a payment plan or they are agreeing for a refund of the money, or whether they should proceed with a trial. And so those are matters that they expect some answers from the lawyers in the case in the AG's department on June 18.
Joseph, thank you very much. Martin Kwebu is a private legal practitioner. Mr. Kwebu, is this an admission of guilt?
Oh, definitely. Under our law, that section 35 that Joseph was reading or referred to, it makes it clear that if you decide to do a compensation to refund to the government, it amounts to an admission of guilt.
I mean, it begs the question, so if it's an admission of guilt, does it end there? Should the state just say, pay the money and we'll let you off the hook, or as some may say, prosecute him in addition to that? I mean, how does that work in the scheme of things?
Okay, number one, when you say prosecute him in addition, actually the admission of guilt is part of the prosecution. So if a case is presented before a court of law, we're talking about a criminal case. If the accused person pleads guilty, then he's convicted on his own plea. So the trial is very short, so they don't have to call witnesses and all the evidence and all that. Yes. So let's be very receptive to this offer. In actual fact, it's very heartwarming, Evans, that he's decided to throw in the towel on these charges. Let's not forget, these are not the only charges he's facing. Okay? So, but for him to have agreed that he wants to throw in the towel on the issue of the 27.5 million, which was for the business promotion, I mean, it's heartwarming, so that we get something back into the state coffers, and then the trial goes on. So for me, it's good news. Okay? Now, what we should be looking at is that some have said, oh, it's not sufficient, he should have paid interest on it and all that. My understanding from other cases that have gone by in the past is that usually these depends, that's a matter of interest or extra payment, depends on a number of factors, very complex negotiations, okay, with the Attorney General or that's the prosecution. So that's why you find even in this one, the Attorney General's representatives say, bring the offer and we'll look at it. But so far, we should be happy that he can return this. Because, look, Evan, how much do we profit when you throw somebody in jail for 25 years and you don't get your money back? No, we don't profit much. But if he throws in the towel and brings back this money, we can do something with it. And then there are other charges. So we take it one day at a time.
I'm grateful that you could break down the issues for us. That is private legal practitioner Martin Kwebu. And now we can now hear from the Assin Central MP Kennedy Ejipon. We've been speaking exclusively to us in a yet to be the interview later on next week, actually, on the Joy News channel and across our platforms. He's revealed today that he actually caused the arrest of, I'm sure you know by now, Bishop Obinim, who is the head pastor of the International God's Way Church. Bishop Daniel Obinim was arrested on Tuesday by police officers from the CID, and he was charged for publication of false news and forgery of document. Well, the Assin Central MP, Kennedy Ejipon, says he caused the arrest, but he's not against the church.
Why would I target churches? Why would I target pastors? You didn't use the right word for pastors. You should have used the word fake. Fake pastors. Not all pastors are fake. No. I wouldn't stand here and say that. There are genuine ones, but there are fake ones, like Obinim, like Bedukobi. I can talk about these two people because I've done the investigation and have a lot of evidence against them. Okay? You see, I'm going to take another video of Obinim to Yoko. He was bragging, saying that he has bought property. I know he's bragging. He doesn't even have it. I bought a house, 166 rooms in America. There's no house in America that has 166 rooms. But where he will have a problem is, in his own mouth, he said he transfers the money. Okay? That will land him into trouble.
Why are you targeting him? What has he done?
The word is not target. He went out there to brag that he would put his priesthood or whatever aside and deal with me for a whole year. And I enjoy that. I like people who are bold like that. So, is it a target? He sent his missiles, these young men going on radio, television, insulting me, but I'm focused. Have 1,001 evidence against him. After the police, Yoko will come in too. Because I've sent the people there, they've investigated the transfers. He puts money in people's account and he transfers to Spain. That is money laundering. It's also coming up. I am not going to rest. And I've gotten involved because in the course of my investigation, I've seen that he has done harm to a lot of innocent people in this country. And I have to let Ghanaians know.
And that is the Assin Central MP Kennedy Ejapon in that exclusive interview with Mama V. Owusu-Abuaji. And that yet to be aired interview is on air from Monday. You have to listen to that interview. You can bet that there's far more to what you just had there in that interview that's going to be aired next week, Monday from 8:30 p.m. on the John channel and across our social media pages as well. You were excited by the interview as well,
yeah,
as you just said.
My man.
Oh, when you say your man, is your MP?
Yeah,
he's your MP.
Yeah, I love that man.
Wait till the guests fill out you.
Same as you.
Please, what do you have in the headlines?
Well, Ghana FA President Ketukuku has reacted to talks that he didn't renew former Black Stars coach Kwesi Appiah's contract because he had personal issues with him. Now, Appiah has been in the news for some time now following the demand of his unpaid salaries and allowances. Now, in a recent interview with sports journalist Daniel Odro, Ket talked about how not renewing coach Kwesi Appiah's contract was a collective decision.
It would be most unfortunate because, first of all, it could sound like a disrespect to all the 12 members on the council of the Football Association and other stakeholders who were engaged before that singular decision was taken. Proud to me being the president, I've had my opinions about issues, and that was me then, okay, as the executive chairman of Dreams FC, where I thought certain intangible assets were of the highest quality. At the end, I do not make the selection to the team. If I make suggestions, just like any older person could make suggestions, media persons do make suggestions. Okay, I mean, it's up to the gaffer to decide who to pick. And that's it. But we all know that we woefully didn't perform at the AFCON. We all know the happenings from the 2004 World Cup. We all know all the things that has happened before. Yeah. So when the council put the motion into vote, and it was 12 out of 12, a big no.
So that's Ghana FA President Ketukuku. You hear more from him on tomorrow's edition of the Joy Sports Center. Also, when he joined me on TV in the morning on the AM show. Now, Manchester United say the coronavirus pandemic has cost them an initial £28 million. That's pay.
28 million. We bought Pogba for almost 100. Please go on.
Okay, I hear. And also, they of course expect the final figure to be far higher. So if you are saying pay, you should expect more to hit the club.
Do you know how much?
Reveal their third quarter results that was today, and they're also looking at. They said lost in an additional 8 million over the final few weeks of March, when they had 3 matches postponed. And the game against Tottenham Hotspur, I mean, if they had played their game against Tottenham Hotspur, they would have, gotten £4 million.
Okay.
So it's not fair.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Benedict. Now, as a visually impaired farmer, he has worked for over 30 years, putting food on the table of many families. But all he has to show for his work is a weak madhouse. Lawrence Demebu, a 60-year-old resident of Afajato South District, who vowed never to get onto the street with a bowl in hand begging, is now appealing for support to build a small, decent retirement house. Jojo Covenant has the rest of the story.
After losing his sight in his early 20s, Demebu vowed never to beg to survive. He lines up a rope so that he can plant maize in a straight line. He recounts sometimes people tail him during harvest seasons to steal from him.
Sometime while harvesting yam, some people follow me
and they steal from me.
Lawrence's biggest fear is old age. He is worried about who will take care of him when he is old and frail. Finding a partner has been difficult, so he has no child and has also given up on the prospects of finding a wife.
My friends try to find me a wife, but unfortunately the women always stay with me for a short time. They feel ashamed of me.
After winning Best Disability Farmer in 2017, he also received 800 cedis to support his farming. 30 years of farming, a weak madhouse is what he has to show for all his hard work.
I don't have a decent place to sleep. I plead with you to help me build a good house. When it rains, I really suffer. Well, Jojo Kobana with that report. Now, at age 23, Ghanaian highlife and Afrobeat singer and songwriter Kwame Eugene is breaking barriers and creating a niche for himself. His unique vocal qualities and statecraft give him an advantage in the saturated music industry. There's no surprise the Angela hitmaker was recently crowned King of Highlife by legendary Amachi Dede. I present to you on Spotlight today the rock star Kwame Eugene.
You know what they say about most musicians. The story of Kwame Eugene is not far off.
There were difficulties from the beginning of my career when things started getting bigger, and I was getting told on social media a lot, but we still here, we give glory to God.
Eugene's abilities were uncovered during music TV reality show MTN Hitmaker, where he finished third in 2016.
I had a strong feeling that storm will be over one day. I dreamt of today and it's here.
From winning the VGMA New Artist of the Year in 2018, Kwame Eugene has become a household name. His numbers on YouTube and streaming websites speak for themselves. Fans of the highlife and Afrobeat singer have used these figures to back their arguments about who the artist with the most hits is between him and Kwesi Arthur, a debate that has been trending on Twitter. Both artists are great individuals in their own rights and wonderful musicians.
No matter what controversy will come, people speculate. Before it used to be a big deal to me, but this time I realized it's not going to stop, so you just let it go and focus on the bright side.
In May 2019, legendary highlife artist Amachi Dede on the VGMA stage crowned him the new king of highlife in Ghana.
Now before say highlife, but we are proof to me say highlife is still living. You are coming to raise the highlife music. Nyami Shao, from my heart, from God, I support you, Kwame.
It appears the fans love him once he keeps doing good music and taking Ghana places.
And on that rock star note, enjoy the rest of your evening. My name is Evans Mensah.